Welcome to all of you. So today we are going to study history chapter 1. The chapter name is Changes Through a Thousand Years. So in this chapter we will be studying what are the changes that take place within 1,000 years in history. Before going to the chapter, let us see some of the basic things of history. The history has been divided into three periods. One is ancient history, then medieval history, and modern history. And if you're seeing in history, each of these period is having different importance and different kind of stories or kind of civilization or kind of their own importance in every historical period. Ancient history you have already completed in class 6. In class 7 you will be focusing to medieval history. So let us deeply focus which are the period and what are the importance of each period. History Each period is set on the basis of historical time scale. The reason why history is set and covered based on historical time scale is that each time scale is having its own importance. That is the reason why the chapter name is framed as changes through a thousand years. History can be studied only through a kind of periodical change, because each period you will be able to find some kind of development, whereas the other period you will not be able to find the same development, but you can able to find something as a different era. So that is the reason why each period is covered on the basis of historical time scale. So the first is ancient period in India, that is from Stone Age to 17th century is the ancient period in India, and it covers the Stone Age to 17th century. The medieval period of India, it covers 1000 years from, that is 800 century to 1800 century, whereas modern period in India, the history covers from 19th century to continuing till date. That is, modern history is the present history and it keeps on continuing and it has never end. But we are keep on just the history or the recent scenario, recent or all things that keeps on linked with the history. So that would be is considered to be the modern history. And history is the reason why we study history is that by studying history only we will be able to understand the past and what are the kings and what are the rulers and how India's outlook was there and how each regions and each individual kingdoms was lies and how the rulers and each kingdoms was ruling and each kingdoms look how everything can be see from history from the past knowledge. So the first topic we are going to cover is from regions to empires. So, after the death of Harshvardhana in 646 century, some of the regional kingdoms got rises throughout the Indian subcontinent. We know that even now also we have Indian subcontinent. Indian subcontinent is having various kind of importance in the historical history and historical importance and also within the other. So the reason why Indian subcontinent is giving more importance that we know that most of the trade and most of the people depends upon water for the transportation facilities, and most of the foreigners and most of the other people we used to move trade from one place to other place. So we used sea waves and waterways. So most of the traveling we use water seaways. Indian subcontinent is the place where all these regional kingdoms was linked and it goes rising up. So we are going to see what are the development and what are the kingdoms that rise throughout the Indian subcontinent. By the 8th century, long struggle of power took place among some of the major regional kingdoms, but none of them was victorious. It was followed by Turkish invasion and this marked the beginning of the medieval period in India. That you can see, that is 8th century. Lot many regional kingdoms has come out, but but these regional kingdoms was not victorious. So what happened was that Turkish invasion came to the medieval period, and they took domination in the 18th and the 8th century, and then the followed is the 13th century. Turkish and Afghan sultans, that is, sultans means these sultans rulers are from Delhi, and this phase of medieval period is known as Sultanate period. So after Sultanate period, then 16th century Mughals, that is a new line of rulers known as Mughals, that is after Sultan period in 16th century, a new that is the new line of rulers known as Mughals. They replaced Sultan of Delhi or Sultanate period, and then it is came to be known as Mughal rulers. The Mughal rulers, they built vast empire with most of them situated in the Indian subcontinent under their control. But with the decline of Mughals, by the end of 18, by the end and beginning of 18th century, the Indian subcontinent again broken into a number of regional kingdoms. So this is how you can see from regions to empires. The topic regions to empire, how regional kingdoms got ruled in Indian subcontinent in different centuries by different rulers and different kingdoms and everything. Have marked in through a flow chart. So you have understand in this flow chart. People or not many foreigners who used to come to India for trade. So they each foreigners who came to India, they used to term India in different name. So that is how in ancient period in different subcontinent, when which all foreigners or which all foreign countries, when they landed India, they used different terms to denote in India. And one of the term used by one of the used by Arabs was Hind in the 8th and 9th centuries, whereas Al-Biruni made this term very popular. Later, Midhauj Hus Siraj, Amir Khusharu, and Mughal Empire Badur used the term Hind and Hindustan. So this is how different terms for India mean used. Next is economic changes that take place during those scenarios. People started moving from one place to another place. We have already seen these people started moving from one place to another place in migration of class. We have one in class 6. We have already studied when people started moving from one place to other place. It is called migration. So in the same way, economic changes take place. One of the reason is when people started moving from one place to other place. So this kind of development and economic changes started taking place. Then people used to travel long distance with group in search of work, which leads to prosperity and gaining profit. So they did not stop for a short distance. They moved from one place of the place for long distance. So when they travel long distance, they didn't travel individually, but within a group. The reason why they used to travel is in search for work, which leads to prosperity and gaining profit. The third point is other countries came to India since India was having both wealth and prosperity. Other countries means other countries who used to come to India for trade, and their motive when they come to India for trade, the reason is that India was blessed with wealth and prosperity, and we know that India was very rich and prosperous before the arrival of these foreign countries for trade. But now the present condition of India is not that wealth and prosperity as it's before what we studied in history. So people who came from other countries started becoming more powerful in different places. That is, the foreigners or other countries who came to India for trade or for trade or other purposes. What happened is that they started becoming more powerful in India in different places, and they started dominating Indians. So they brought out new technologies, such as one of the new technologies they have brought out to Indian economic changes. One of the technologies are Persian wheel in irrigation, and the second technology is spinning wheels in weaving. So these are the two technological development they brought out. Beyond that, they have made a growth in agricultural by clearing out all the forests, and so clearing out the forest, it creates a lot many problems for people who are living nearby forests or nearby regions. So they were forced to leave from their homeland, and most of the farmers, they were also work as part-time artisans, and most of the societies were divided into either caste or jati, and that becomes very important. And caste had the I mean caste every caste had their own rules and regulation, and the caste decided the behavior of members through jati panchayat. So these are the different economic changes that take place during the scenario of that period. And next topic we are going to study is new regional division. New regional division means we have already studied what is we have already seen what is region and empire. We are going to study how the new regional divisions take place. So several new regional divisions came into existence by the 700th century. So based on their geographical borders, language, cultural features, these regional divisions are ruled by specific dynasty. Specific dynasty. So based on this dynasty, each new regional divisions got importance in the history. And now we are going to study a continuation of new regional division. The same with the new regional divisions. We have new religious tradition. New religious tradition in the sense we have already seen in the economic changes. There was a new caste system that take place. In the same way, during the medieval period, several important changes took place in religious tradition also. Some of them are there was emergence of idea of bhakti, personal devotion to God. We have already studied some of the topics in class 6. Then people who came from West Asia first brought teaching of Holy Quran to India in the 7th century. Sufi tradition also become more powerful in Bhakti. So these are the new religious traditions that highlighted the historical importance of India. So these are the major topics that we are going to cover in the today's class. So I hope you have understood today's class. So please read the textbook, page number beginning from page number 109 to 111. This is all about today's class. So today's class we have already seen what is history, how history each period is divided, and the history ancient period of India is divided, medieval period of how it is divided, modern history how it is divided, and from regions to empires and how these regions and empires got developed, and how what are the different centuries in which each regional kingdoms and which are the rulers, and how these rulers dominate other rulers, and how these all things take place in Indian subcontinent, and how regional kingdoms finally end up. So about this thing we have studied. Next we have studied new terms for India. The rulers, the foreigners or the other trading people who came from other countries, they started giving new terms for Indian and Indian subcontinent, and what are the new terms for India. And then the economic changes that take place in the India, then new regional divisions that take place in India based on geographical borders, language, and cultural features, and new religious traditions that take place in India on history. So that are the major topics that we covered today. So thank you, my dear students. So that is all for today's class.